rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being that best you has just gotten easier. And my guest today, calling in from, I'm going to let him say the name of the country, but he told me it used to be Yugoslavia, right? And he is known as Coach Rad. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hello, Beverly. Thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm really glad I'm here for you and your audience. And I guess I will now introduce myself. Well, okay. Okay. My name is Rad Suayats, better known as Coach Rad. I'm the author of Lion Smoking Cessation Method and founder of Lions Institute of Southern Europe. Here we are dedicated to providing the tools to smokers and people impacted by smoking to crush the grip of nicotine and break the chains of addiction. We are formerly located in the city of Doboj in a beautiful little country named Bosnia and Herzegovina in Southern Europe. So, but we operate online because people who want to crush the grip of nicotine and break the chains of addictions are all over the world.
Yes, they are. That is so awesome. So you developed this really, what did you say, a little technique to do this? Is it by a machine? Is it by mind? Is it by...
It is by the mind because everything we need to succeed in life is already between our ears. And this tool is a combination of cognitive behavior therapy and neurolinguistic programming tools. By the way, it happens to be that I'm an NLP practitioner. Basically, when you decide that it's time to stop smoking, by using all of these tools, you can make this journey to happen instantaneously or make it much easier.
You know, that's great because it really is needed, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking to shift with addictions, not only smoking addictions, but other addictions as well. And with the crazy world the way it is right now today, there's there's a lot of, I think, addictions that have maybe
absolutely
moved, and gotten more relevant, gotten more heavily, shall we say, because of the lockdown and the unpredictability, the stressors, the anxieties that have been presented because of what's going on here in 2020. Now, how have you found it over there in your country, with what you do, with addiction and how people are handling the different stressors?
Well, my biggest cure that I use is I cut the cable TV. I don't have television. I choose YouTube and Facebook, and basically I choose what information I'm going to let inside of my head. But I see since I work with a lot of people in my day job. I see a lot of tension. People are afraid what's going to happen. There's the economy. The biggest hit is taken. The economy has taken the biggest hit here, and that's in my opinion. Since I'm a degreed economist, in my opinion, that's biggest danger. But since I already have certain experiences in the past where there is no economy, there's you don't know what you're going to eat tomorrow or everything.
Right.
I use that experience to overcome, the anxiety that comes from it. I believe with all the people that I know. Maybe you can live without of this, without telephone and stuff. You can live without it easily, But there are certain skills and knowledges, to that they are good, just good enough for survival. So if you know to cook, to take a glass of water when you're thirsty and stuff, you will survive. And that's, just we live in pretty we are used to now, we are really used to live in a high-tech world, even in some really poor country, people are much more dependent on technology. But in our nature, in our collective subconscious mind, that basic tools for survival we still have, and I firmly believe in that. And you know 2 weeks ago I was diagnosed with COVID-19, and where I did have a fever and some symptoms. Well, for me symptoms are same as a flu.
Right.
And when when people ask me, oh, how did you survive it? How was it? I said, I had best time of my life. It was like vacation for me. Well, I'm getting a full pay, on my job, and I'm at home. I'm developing my business, my coaching business.
Right.
I did, so I did coaching videos. They're in the process of editing. Wrote that small ebook that's gonna soon be published. You know, and I read tons of books. I watched the movies. Those things. I told them, I feel like a student again, like I'm at college. Just only thing missing is parties. And
There you go.
yeah, it's. Look, everything in life will pass, and there's nothing that human being cannot bear. It's only one thing in our life is unbearable, and that is death itself. And only God, or whatever you believe in, knows when that's coming. And
Exactly.
between life and that point, just make best you can do it from that situation, and that's my philosophy.
I would have to agree with you there, Rad, because, it's like the mind, when you said, the 6 inches up here, the mind is so powerful in everything that it does
Yeah.
and what you feed it. I haven't had a TV in my presence for, oh my God, probably 30 some years.
Wow.
So it's what do you feed the 6 inches? And it's so cool that you were saying, it's like, whoa, hey, I got vacation time here, and make the best of it. And again, it's how you perceive your situation, because you can't change the situation, but when you surrender to the circumstances of whatever that situation is, now you take charge of it. How do you make the body healthy? How do you, as you said, survive? Because we all do have that survival instinct. That comes with birth. We have 3 parts of the brain. That reptilian brain is nothing but survival. And don't feed it fear. Feed it solutions.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And when you can do that, and it's like, oh, all this positive thinking stuff, it's not positive thinking.
No, that's not about it.
That's not it at all. It's really taking charge of this physical presence that you're in. And when you build that immune system, everybody's going to get sick at one point in their life, no doubt, right? If things are going to happen, it's how you perceive it and how you deal with it, how you handle it, how you make the best of it, as you had mentioned, right? And
Yeah.
so, at the end, we came into this world alone. We're going out of this world alone, because we shed this body, right? Whatever happens in between, it's not about wondering when the end is going to come. It's about enjoying the ride, the journey, the moment. The experiences are unlimited. How are you personally, right, handling and dealing with and experiencing every second of life? Because if you're not living life, you're dying, right?
Exactly. That's
So,
exactly true.
and you only have the moment that you're in, right? And that's, I think, a big message that sometimes we forget. And especially now, where we've been in this kind of like, this lockdown arena where we're held back. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. This is really a good time to get in between the 6 inches. What is really running our lives? Now it's time to take full charge, right?
Well, look, you're referring for a lot of things that from the book that I believe it's familiar to you, and that's man's search for meaning.
Yes.
from Viktor H. Frankl. And for the viewers, I don't know if it's ever mentioned in your show, but for the viewers, Viktor E. Frankl was a Jewish doctor that survived, a Jewish psychiatrist that survived the concentration camp Auschwitz and Dachau. He was there for 3 years, and he's the second most important person from. Just a second to silence my phone. He's the second most important person in psychology after Sigmund Freud, because he's a father of logotherapy, and
Okay.
that's the therapy with meaning. And what Mr. Frankl, what managed to do in all of those camps, he found meaning in his suffering, and he proved that people who were in the book, there are really vivid images where they're stripped down, their hair is from the whole body, they're taken off, their names are taken off. Basically, they were not owners of their life.
Right.
They found that people in that situation, people who didn't have food, who didn't have any physical reason to stay alive, were staying alive only by their will, only because they wanted to.
Right.
Viktor Frankl in the book described that he believed that when he gets out of the camp, when the war is over, he doesn't know when it's going to happen, but the war will be over one day. He will teach people about his experience and the experience of his comrades from camp, and he will be with his wife and his children. Unfortunately, his wife didn't survive, but he left his legacy. I think he died somewhere around year 2000 or something like that. I'm not sure, or in the 70s. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Anyway,
I'm familiar with this story. Not real familiar with it, but I do
hmm
know parts of it. And we talk a lot on this show about the mindset, because
hmm
being that best you that you can be is really being responsible for yourself.
hmm
And I've been in the holistic side of medicine for about 45 years now.
okay.
So you're talking my language, and I love guests when they come on and talk my language, because
I,
it's
I
so
I think
prevalent.
this today's episode is gonna be too short for both of us. I think
Well, you know what? Then that means you just have to come back, right? You know.
I will make something possible tomorrow.
So it's, yeah. There you go. It's today over here in the United States. It's 11/11, which is
Mhm.
Veterans Day, and this is
Yes, it's a Truth Day in Europe, where basically World War I ended,
right.
and
Exactly.
mhm,
Yeah, and
mhm,
so it's sad that we only pick one day to honor those that
mhm,
served our countries to keep it free, to make it free,
mhm.
and we kind of forget, I think, that this is happening all around the world. And for me, 2020 should be a real wake up call for
Yes,
international peace. And today is a very
agreed.
special day for several reasons, honoring, all the veterans around the world in every war. But the biggest war we battle is where? Within ourselves, that conflict. Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone on my show mentioned here, months ago, and I will never forget this. He said, the longest journey you will ever take is the one from your mind to your heart.
It is the longest.
Wow. It's like, and I'd never heard it put that way. I'm also an author, and
Hmm.
in my book, The Power Formula, the subtitle is The Heart Mind Connection. Right? So when you connect those two pieces together, it kind of creates that fullness, right? And to be able to really look at what that is. And I've had the honor working with a dear friend of mine over here whose husband just passed on the 7th, just a few days ago. And he was a Vietnam veteran. And we got his story out, his legacy, as you put it, right?
Hmm.
Which, his battle in Vietnam, being in the jungles for a year and being in a position of what they call a point man, which is he was kind of responsible for every man in his infantry. Now, that's a big
Oh,
responsibility when you're walking through the jungles. But they sprayed a lot of Agent Orange, and not knowing the damage that could happen with this chemical warfare that's still going on today. Um, when he got home, there was things started progressing, as time went by, that they had no answers for. But Agent Orange gets in there and makes a mess out of your DNA. And it's so they called it Broken DNA, and that was the name of their book, Agent Orange Broken DNA. And it actually is being launched today in his honor, which is really awesome. But he did get to hear his story read to him before he passed over. It was a very pleasant and very beautiful transition. And the sad part about all of this when it comes to chemical warfare and not understanding it, his legacy in this story is going to share with other military who don't really understand maybe what's going on in their family and in their generations, because not only did he suffer with his own issues with his DNA, but his daughters did, right? And they fought for their lives, and now he has grandchildren who are fighting for their lives. And they're saying that this is something that may go on for the next at least 7 generations, but it could go beyond that. So when you look at the damage that happens and comes out of war, just like the gentleman you were talking about, that was in the concentration camps, but it's that mind power, that survival instinct to overcome whatever battle it is that we're struggling within, the conflict within ourselves, and being able to fill our own cup up, right? And how do we take a look at that? So when you're working, Coach, with your clients, if you want to share this with the audience, I think they'll find it very interesting too, because we like different viewpoints.
Okay. I always, there's big program. There's a little bit of content and much exercise there, but there's one certain point that's regarding a mindset. I believe that's interesting for this show. It's that anxiety moment, craving for cigarettes is nothing more than an anxiety, because when you take out cigarettes, you basically, I would describe it like a loss of job, you've been doing something for 25, 30 years and it suddenly just snapped out of you, and all of a sudden one big part of you is ripped out of you. Same thing is with smoking, and you don't know what you're going to do tomorrow. Of course, with job, you can always search another job, but smoking is addiction. It's a way of triggering, nicotine triggers dopamine.
Right.
You're kind of used to that, and all of a sudden your brain starts being afraid. What am I going to do? What am I going to do tomorrow? I cannot stand this. Oh my God, I hate everyone. Everybody hates me, and that's anxiety, and anxiety is a fear of future, Basically, from my experience with anxiety, I realized, anxiety was I'm not worth of life anymore. From anxiety came depression, and depression, it's a serious illness, and I'm really sorry that that's not a main subject as other diseases. Instead of this COVID thing, I'm not underestimating any disease, of course, but there's also epidemic of mind diseases, brain diseases, psychological diseases, and there's like 400 million people have some sort of psychological illness each day. And the biggest issue with depression and anxiety is lack of self-love. I like to trick my client to say, okay, write it down next task, okay, I love myself, 3 exclamation marks, and you see like their faces just falling down,
Oh,
say,
exactly.
Get up, and I tell them, write it down on your wall. I love myself. When I was suffering clinical depression and anxiety, I have that written above my bed, and when I wake up, it's the first thing I see, and it's the last thing I see that day. I love myself. There is no other person like me in the world, and you too. There's no other. Scientifically, there was chance of 7 billion to 1. Or if I didn't remember this number wrong. Probably it's 7 trillion to one to be
Mm-hmm.
born.
Well, yeah, we're all like a
And
snowflake, right? Every single one
yeah,
of us is an
and you,
individual and
and
unique.
let's exactly, and let's look at in broader picture. We are not
Yeah.
only creatures being born. There's all animals or insect or everything,
Uh huh.
being born each day, and each of that individual creature or creature individually is unique paint on this planet, and that's the reason to love yourself for being unique.
Right. Oh,
and
such
and
powerful words right there.
and,
Powerful
and
words, Rad.
yeah, I gave myself a chills. And but I strongly believe in that. And let's look at this. Viktor Frankl, he was suffering. No one cannot understand anyone. We can sympathize and empathize with people, but we
Exactly.
will never understand somebody else's experience. And Viktor Frankl was in one of the world's worst experiences in human history. He's been there, where people were systematically
Right.
killed for being for having certain name or certain religion or whatever. And even there, he found a love for himself, and that's what kept him alive. And I like to also say to my clients, love, it doesn't have form or shape. It's just demonstrate. Okay, you're in this
Right.
room. How big is your room? It's pretty big. Okay, fill it up with love. What? How? I don't know. Give it some color. Make it like it's a flood of love. Make it purple, pink. I don't know, whatever. Let's
Exactly.
feel it. Okay, here I am, 5,000 miles from you. I'm sending you love. Love. Do you feel it? Yes, I do. Send it to me. Wow, I feel it too. Love
Right.
is love. It's an energy, and when you have, it's a life's energy, and when you have that energy in yourself, cravings can be difficult for some people. Surprisingly, people who I met, who I model, they were smoking like 5, 4 cigarettes. They are war veterans. They see incredibly bad things in life, and they just woke up one day and said to themselves, "I don't need alcohol, and I don't need 4 packs of cigarette each day."
Right.
That's that's like one cigarette every 12 minutes. Yeah, every 12 minutes, one cigarette, and he quit. And
I mean, I
and
know people that would wake up in the middle of the night because
yeah,
that
yeah,
craving was so strong. But it's when you look at addiction. Addiction
mhm,
it's like your drug of choice. Whether it's sugar, or different
yeah,
kind of foods, or sex, or
gambling,
running,
gaming,
or gambling, coffee. It doesn't matter what that addiction is, that addictive behavior, because that addiction becomes your best friend because
yeah,
it's always there. No matter
everything.
when you call on it, it's
Mhm.
not going to talk back. It's going to give you that moment of, oh, I feel good, right?
The best example of organic marketing that I ever saw in my life, besides that AOL commercial, Call Your Mother. This one is even stronger. The best example is from tobacco company from Croatia, next our neighborhood country here. They launched a pack of cigarette and put a message on it with cigarette, you're not alone.
Oh
And
my goodness.
that's that's
That's a
that
powerful
was for
subliminal
me.
message.
Yeah,
Oh,
when
wow.
I was a student, I was fighting anxiety. If you read my story on a group there, um, I was like I don't know that children toy took it. I was like swinging, which will I continue or not? I was heavy addict and everything. But since in that even then I started feeling anxiety and depression, and I read that note. I actually felt warmth I felt warm inside of my heart.
Right.
And I took a cigarette and made up some story that I'm cool or something like that, some excuse that I
I think
needed.
a lot of addictions start with that, especially with smoking.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes you look cool and makes you,
Uh,
you just feel like you want to fit in, right?
Look,
You want to fit in
having
with something.
going for marijuana or heroin or not alcohol, any illegal drugs. Okay,
Uh-huh.
it requires certain guts to do it, and
Yeah.
it's basically exploration. With cigarettes, we can bash them, we can talk trash about cigarette or tobacco industry or everything. Look at this. I'm speaking about cigarettes as a person, you know. But it's basically a stick of dead weed,
Right.
and it's a consequence of it's a I wanted to say cigarettes are socially accepted,
Yes, they are.
they're normal part of our everyday life, and there's 100 years of heavy propaganda around it. Tobacco industry is in the business of delivering nicotine. That's what they're selling. And tomorrow there maybe won't be any more cigarettes. Maybe it will be replaced with some devices, but nicotine stays. It's
Right.
it's addictive as much as sugar, and what I wanted to say, there's a point of my story. I just forgot.
I'll come back around. But
I'll come back around.
it's so true, Rad, what you're saying, with these addictions. And when we look at the amount of sugars, and there's
Yeah,
like 60 different words now that the food
yeah,
industry uses to disguise what's actually just sugar, right? And
hmm
it's that addictive, ness that does it. And when they test different products and everything, it's the amount of sugar that's in there, and it's so precise, like almost right down to the granule,
hmm
as to how it's going to respond to the open market.
yeah,
So, and you look around us. I mean, you just totally look around us. Addiction is more than just in that kind of form. Addiction is like habits. We are
hmm
creatures of habit, right?
yes,
Now think about it. Here we have COVID coming in, right?
yeah,
Everything stopped. Everything that was predictable in our life ended in a split second.
yeah,
Predictability is nothing more than a habit, and a habit is nothing more than an addiction. So they kind of
yeah,
all sitting there in the same little library. So all of a sudden, all of these habitual things, these predictable things that you did continuously, day after day, hour after hour, but you still do some of them. Do you
yeah,
still get up on the same side of the bed? Do you still
yes,
have the same routine when you get out of bed?
oh
Right?
yes,
Watch what you do every single day, and where have you adjusted to shift into that new habit to make
hmm
some kind of sense out of what's going on. If every day you did your habitual things differently, the mind shifts. The neurotransmitters in the brain fire differently, and it
yes.
goes into different elements of the brain, and that will keep you, shall we say, sane in this insane world, right?
Sane, and physiologically, you're building your brain, new parts of your brain. That's neuroplasticity.
Exactly.
For life, if I watched the webinar from that guy Jim Quick. He's like a memory coach or something like. Never mind. He just suggested something really interesting. Switch the hand you brush your teeth with, and see how large challenge that will be. And when you master your left hand or right hand, whatever dominant hand, the
Right.
opposite your dominant hand, you will actually feel much better. Like
Oh,
small shifts.
it
And what I
is.
want, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
it is those small things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say by that story to love yourself when you're going to change, you will feel difficulties when you quit smoking, but that amount of love for yourself will actually make all those changes easier to
Right.
come to you because it's all just a matter of perception. I don't know. I read the book. Count Des Monte Cristo.
Oh yes, that
Uh,
was a good book.
yeah, the best part of that book was when he say, there's no good and bad in life. There's just a comparison of one thing with another.
Right.
And what I also, this is another disclosure from the Alliance method is, if you feel craving, don't get scared. Actually, don't that. Instead of being scared, be excited. Your body is cleaning. That's why you feel craving. That's why you dreaming cigarettes. Last night I was dreaming that I'm smoking, and when I wake up, I was like, yes, it's finally gone. Because I told myself, not last night, like a year and something ago, when I was in the process of cleaning my body, I said, I made a goal for myself. When I dream about smoking first time, that's the sign that it's over finally, and it
Right.
was. Why? Because I preconditioned what's gonna happen, and now I'm not gonna have clients.
uh, no,
Yeah,
it's interesting,
it's okay.
how
Yeah.
that dreamland and how that mind goes and what
Hmm.
happens because, to be in the position that you are, coach,
Hmm.
you know what it is to have that addiction. Why? Because it was a part of you that
Hmm.
you conquered and overcame. And now what you're doing when you reach out to your clients, you're saying, hey, let me show you a way
Hmm.
if you're interested, because it can be done. If I did it, you can do it. And you talked about this love. When you
Hmm.
look at this little cigarette, say, right, here's your little cigarette. You
Yeah.
have actually put into that love,
Power. Yeah.
right? And I'm an observer. I'm a people watcher.
Okay.
And I've watched people who smoke and the style in what they do and how they just caress, that smoking, how they make the draw, how they hold the cigarette, how they look at it during that process, how they breathe out the smoke. All of that, right? You can just feel it. It's almost as though as they breathe in, it's like they're receiving this big hug from a friend, from the closest friend they ever had.
Yeah.
Because there's no judgment from that cigarette. There's nothing. It's just there in every capacity. So when you exit that, so if you can take a look at what that cigarette is doing for you, how you perceive it, right,
Hmm.
and what it's giving you, and the gratification and the fulfillment that it's taking internally, and allow that cigarette now to give you that gift back internally to help you fill your heart, to fill your cup, to fill that
Exactly.
unconditional love.
Yes.
Now you're not getting rid of this friend. You are internalizing this friend's solution, what it
Yes.
makes you feel, and you can have that 24/7, right?
Well, I agree totally with you. And the reason I didn't explain the name of Alliance Method Program. Alliance is an acronym for Life of a Non-Smokers.
Okay.
It's because my philosophy is, and the Alliance Institute philosophy is that we're not making ex-smokers. We are bringing you life of a non-smoker, person who are you meant to be, who are you meant to be, and the person who you were before you try that cigarette. Because cigarettes create instant addiction. It's dopamine triggers like this. And what I'm trying to say here is all of that feelings. You already have that. That's you. It's just projected on some object. I
Right, you
think is
took it
this.
out of yourself and
Yeah,
gave the power
you
to that other object.
you anchored happiness, your personal life, to
Yeah.
smoking, and basically, in some point, being alive is excuse for smoking.
Hmm.
That's you know,
Well, you
and
also put a dependency on that other
yeah,
object, whatever that addiction
yeah,
is, right?
yeah.
And the responsibility, you've
Hmm.
dumped the responsibility on that addiction. And
Yeah,
it's now putting it back where it really needs to be. Depend on yourself, trust yourself,
yeah.
right? And really start to look at, wow, where is my power? And take
Hmm.
that back, because that's what helps fill your cup, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. And one more thing, another term why I don't like ex-smoker, especially in our Western culture, uh, being an ex in something is not really like something
Yeah.
something you applaud to, And I believe that cigar industry is a big part of that term, ex-smoker. It sounds bad, and all of these programs and everything. I wasn't really happy with them. When I figured that out
Right.
in my mind, that's when they are dead. Cigarettes were dead for me. Um,
Well, X also kind of puts that connotation, I'm glad you said this,
exactly,
as being a loss or a failure, right?
exactly, everything.
Yeah.
And what I figured out, this is not a bad thing having this experience. Look, everybody made a mistake, but somehow these mistakes repeated itself each year, each day, each morning, each hour, you know.
Exactly.
But it's a part of our life, so it's tangling in our life, and it needs to be untangled. And when you figure out that that experience is a resource for success,
Right.
being a smoker requires discipline.
Discipline, commitment,
Discipline, commitment,
yeah,
and all
and
of that is a resource. So,
yes,
what's
yeah,
the
very
point
much so.
of being living a lion's life or life of a non-smoker? Let's see what else you can do with this.
Right.
Let's shift it. Let's do it. What do you want to be? You want to be a superstar? You want to be a super tennis player? Okay, maybe you will not be a world champion in tennis, but let's see what you need to learn to play tennis and
Right.
anchor that.
Right.
Okay, and you want to be a writer or anything? Okay, let me teach you how you will
Yes.
live lion's life. At some point of your life, for example, for at least once in my 17 years of smoking, I wanted to do something. For example, being a coach, for
Mm-hmm.
example. But I said to my, okay, I live in a third world country. I don't know how to do it. I just, take cigarettes and calm down all that anxiety and just forget about it.
Right.
Okay. And let's use discipline, commitment, that love that you projected on cigarettes. Let's use it
Right.
and
And
create your life of a non-smoker.
oh, a non whatever that addiction is. And again,
Yeah.
you really made some beautiful points here, Ed. It's that what is that focus on the other side? Where did you focus, and what did you allow to overcome and overtake your automatic pilot? Right,
Yes.
and subsidize you. And again, it's like passing that responsibility on. So if something goes, runs awry, it's like, oh well,
Yes.
I can blame that because of, right, and it's just so many things when it comes to addictions of any kind. What is that addictive behavior, and where have you given up a part of yourself that is so
Hmm.
powerful? So I really like what you were saying here, when we go back into how being not an ex-smoker but a non-smoker, to take that power in what you gave to something else, and now really beginning living that, into that perception, shifting
Yeah.
that perception, and how you are really committed, and how you really are disciplined, and how all of these other really fine assets. So when you become a non whatever that addiction
Yeah.
is, now you become an even more empowered human being, because those are your assets. So don't look at your addiction as being something wrong. Look at your
Yeah.
addiction as telling you and showing you where your powerful assets lie. And then
Hmm.
just lift them from the outside and put them on the inside, right?
Exactly. I couldn't say it better myself. and uh, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You really wrap it out. Wrap it up. Yeah. English is my second language. My apologies to your
No,
viewers.
you don't need to apologize for that. I love your
Okay.
accent, by the way. It's like, keep
Oh,
talking. I just melt with this accent. And I
well,
think
thank
that
you.
happens with a lot of us. It's
Thank you very much.
interesting, but I
Thank you
do
very
love
much.
your accent, and I
Thank
love
you.
your I love your
I
theory and thoughts, and what you're doing. You know.
Well, look, I'm a big follower of Viktor E. Frankl. I'm also a big fan of late Sean Stevenson. I recommend everyone to watch Sean Stevenson TEDx talk in a prison somewhere in California. I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the name of the clip is "Prison of Your Mind." In your mind, that 15 minutes, I had when I was in a process of recovering from anxiety and depression. I have that bookmarked on my browser, and every time I feel bad, just click on it and listen from the beginning to the end. And I
Right.
actually wrote him an email, and I got response from from his team, saying thank you and everything. It's really powerful, and that's where philosophy. Always when you're searching a philosophy for life, I always suggest to search an old masters. The oldest self-help book is Bible. Even if you're not religious, you learn from it anyway. And there's like philosophers from like Stoicism. From
Right.
psychology. Psychology is born from philosophy and stuff. And many things that we use today are drawn or written about them. Like 1,000 years ago. People just didn't know how to figure it out, how to make them, you know. And you can
Right.
find a lot of there, And when you are worried about politics and stuff, and just read some book, some fiction or non-fiction, some Russian book, doesn't matter, from the 19th, and you will see that nothing changed,
Oh,
in the
oh, Rad, that is so true.
nothing changed,
Civilization after civilization, really the basis of everything has already been done. And again, it goes back into your perception. It goes into how are you going to incorporate into
Yeah,
your personal life all
yeah,
of these things, right? We're not so different as it was back in the Egyptian time, the Roman time, the
nothing.
cavemen. It doesn't matter. The basis of survival, the
Hmm.
basis of knowledge has always been there. It's
Always.
up to us as an individual.
You know, here on Balkans, we have history of nationalistic conflicts and ethnic conflicts, even if we are in middle of Europe almost.
Uh huh.
But there's three religions, Catholicism, Orthodox Christianity, and Islam, and there's a lot of conflicts through history. I will not go into reason why. War is a state of madness. There's no reason for war. Absolutely,
Exactly.
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 I won't go into that. But there's a book. It calls Bridge on Drina from our Nobel Prize winner Ivo Andrić. He won the Nobel Prize in 1967, I think, or 65. Doesn't matter. And he writes about period of Ottoman rule when Ottoman Empire was on this area. You know,
Okay.
and he's writing. He's covering in that book basically 3 centuries. And you see how people think, what worries do they have, where their conflicts come from. They're from feudal age. There's a new hope. People going to higher education. Then they're waking up in nationalism. There's different theories. And I was reading that book, in 2004, and I was like 20 years old. We have to read that book in high school, but I wasn't best student in high school. I was drifting
Neither
always.
was I, so that's okay.
No, it's okay. It's never too late for knowledge. Trust me. I was reading that book and I was like standing. When I read a book, it comes better in my head. I don't know how I have my knees still, and I was reading
Whatever
that.
works. Whatever
Whatever
works.
word. I'm reading my book and like this is like 70, 80 something, years in this book. And this is like
Right.
2004. There's internet communication. You can do whatever you want, you can find knowledge everywhere you want. And we're still served with same crap, and and people buy it, It's just, I just closed the book when I read it and I was like silent for a week, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And that's basically, today is a Memorial Day. That's like 100 108 years since or it's 102 years since end of World War One. And when that war ended, there was 10 million casualties.
Right.
From the 1918 to 1920 something, there was the influenza of Spanish flu that killed 50 million people, you know? And look, in the period of 100 years, have, let's say it's a pandemic. Uh, Another pandemic, you know,
Uh-huh.
again in a lockdown. And just as 100 years ago, people survive, we will survive too, you know?
Yes.
There's 99.9 survival rate on COVID, you know? There's gonna be some shifts, you know, and we have to accept it, you know, we like it or not, we will have to adapt. And as Sean Stevenson says, adaptation is celebration.
Oh my gosh, say that again.
Adaptation, he said this word. And you know what I think about it? What is adaptation? I think it's a celebration, you know. Adaptation is a celebration. Find that
That's
video.
powerful. And it's
Yeah,
so true. You know,
yeah,
and it's not like surrendering or giving into, it's actually taking charge of the situation.
yeah,
It's you can't change it,
yeah,
right? So when you really surrender to that,
yeah,
surrender is winning the war. And
yeah,
this is, we talk about giving up or whatever, but when you surrender, what happens when you surrender is you stop the conflict. When you
yeah,
stop the conflict, you stop the battle. When you stop the battle, you stop the war.
yeah.
So
Or
it's a win-win-win for everyone.
when you have bully that bullies a child in the school and he says, you know, you're stupid, you say, yes, I am, and walk away. And he will use material. He will lose materials, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly, exactly.
even you know, there's people taking different points of view on this. I will not state my opinion about it, but some people saying that this lockdown is overreacting. Other people are afraid. You know,
Right,
those are different mind maps. You know, and each map must be respected. You know,
right.
we still don't know what exactly truth is, but you know, if we respect each other's map, you know, without calling each other stupid for believing one thing or another,
Right.
uh, we have better chance than with panic, than with point fingers. And I'm telling you, people, I live in a area where people were fighting because of different accents. Like I don't know, Colorado starts the war with Texas
Right.
because way they talk, where they wear hats and stuff. And those are all banal things, you know. And today, and the same thing was had influence as it has, and that same thing has influence today, and that's media. Be careful what you feed your brain with. That's all I can say.
You know
But
what? On that note, we are going to call it a show because that's a powerful way to live, and it really gives a lot of food for
I
thought
agree.
because
I agree.
it's so true, right?
Hmm.
And become responsible for yourself. So really take a look at what's going on in the outside world around you. Where
Hmm.
is that conflict? And then surrender to the conflict, and now you can overpower it and really become that true snowflake of who you are, right?
Exactly. One and unique.
Right. So, Coach Rad, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they reach out to you?
They can visit lionsmethod.com. That's my website. It's still under development, but you have contacts, my social media, and my email. You can also browse Facebook. Just put as one word, Lions Method, and it will show you my personal website, my personal page. Right. So, or just simply, you know, take a screenshot of my name here and,
There you go.
and
Comment
type it,
below, and yeah.
comment below.
So,
And
how do you spell lioness? Lion.
lions, yeah, lions, like a pack of lions, you know.
Oh,
L
lion.
I,
Lions.
yes, lions,
Okay.
like multiple lions, and lions method,
Lions method. And S.
Lions method.
Cool.
Look, I know spelling.
Hey, spelling wasn't my best. It wasn't my best
Yeah,
subject.
look, here in elementary, foreign language is mandatory, so I was really a customer for German because I was kind of hoping that I would move to Austria where I
Uh-huh.
have some family. But we had, it was after the war and we had only one English teacher. So I took English and it was struggling in the beginning. But just like when I was shown the way to think on English, to use words in English, it just snapped. And the same thing happened 30 years later,
Right.
I developed Lions method, have
And
my
there you
Lions
go.
people, and I
Right.
creating smoke-free world one day at a time, one client at a time. And
That's what it's all about. That's
yeah.
all it is. So thank you again so much, Rad, for being here. It was an honor. We'll have to get you back and talk a little bit more about, when your book
Thank
is
you, Beverly.
complete, you can bring that
Yeah.
book up, show everybody, right?
Okay, I
So,
will. Thank you. Thank you for that.
oh,
Okay.
you're so welcome. So it's time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be, because Rad and I are going to be the best we that we can be. And we'll see you all on another show. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.